welcome to the podcast. My name is Father Bill W., Episcopal priest here in Austin, Texas, and we are the final stages, I hope, of a series we've been doing on a book by Jim Hollis. Title is Living Between Worlds. How do you find personal resilience in changing times? It's gone a lot longer than I thought it would, and it's gone a lot deeper than I thought it would as well. For those of you guys who have stayed with me on this, thank you. I hope it's been helpful, and let's just dive right in and finish it off. Concluding the chapter where Hollis is, and he's got about 30, 40 years of being a Jungian analyst, doing therapy with people, workshops, writing books. He knows his stuff. And his question here is, what are the takeaways? If you really dive into Jung, what are the things, the major lessons you're going to come away from that study having achieved? So this is number 6. It's titled, We Are the Meaning Makers. We are the makers of meaning. Viktor Frankl said when he was in the concentration camps in Germany, that the people there, the men and women who were there, they could go a long while without food. They could go a long while even without water. What they couldn't go very long without was having meaning and purpose to their lives. If they were just total victims, they would give up the spirit, and he'd see it happening in their eyes, and pretty soon they'd just give up, and then they would be killed. So meaning is extremely important. And for us in recovery, it's not just about not drinking. That can be really important in the beginning, but after a while, it's got to become more than that. It's got to be a meaningful and a purposeful life and a sobriety. So let's jump in. In life, we would all like a roadmap, clear instructions, great teachers, and the sanction of the collective approval. Want everybody to say you're on the right path. And of course, we can learn from others. But to take someone else's path, no matter how sincerely, is to be living someone else's journey and not our own. We may think we have nothing to bring to the table, no chip to add to the great mosaic, but that is how we wind up undermining our summons to personhood. We're each called to become ourselves. The reader will recall Jung's reminder that sometimes one simply has to be alone if we are to find out what it is that supports us when we no longer can support ourselves. Only this experience can give us an indestructible foundation. We come into the program and we are reliant on our sponsor. We're dependent as hell on the meetings. We read the big book like our life depended on it. And that's all really well and good. I think it's how it should be. But if I'm still doing that at 20, 30, 40, 50 years sober, have I maybe missed something along the way? If I'm so desperate to get to a meeting after I've been on vacation, isn't that a clue that something may be wrong, that I've put my dependency on institutions and on other people rather than in the only safe place I can put them, the inner voice, all right, the beyond that is within, the great reality. It's the one thing that will never let me down. He says Jung challenges us to consider that within each of us is a center that is wiser than our knowledge, deeper than our learning, older than our chronology, and more durable than our calcified convictions. From time to time, life humbles us, calls us to account, leads us back to the drawing board, and asks us to start over. Isn't it nice to think there might also be some resources available there to help us when we think we are bereft, when we're bereaved, when we're whining, all right? That there's some help there when we have exhausted our conscious tools, when we have lost our way. And my experience is, we get some big jolts like that. Maybe we relapse and then we have to go back to the drawing board. But I think all throughout recovery, there are mini relapses, ego relapses, when I'm putting my trust more in my ego than I am in the inner voice. Maybe it's several times during the day. I've got to stop. Got to go back to the drawing board. I got to see what's wrong. Where have I lost the connection? So these are the questions that we're being asked to ponder, meditate on, all right? When we understand psychopathology, what's wrong with the soul, when we understand that as the quite legitimate protest of the psyche, of the soul, as the summons to take seriously a wider range of life's choices, we realize that we do have an internal guidance system. If we'll learn to listen, we will find that there is within each and every one of us the great reality whose job it is to steer us and guide us through life. And that's the point of the 11th step, hey? Seeking through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with this guide. Now, no matter how we understand the guide, all right? Searching only for God's will for us and the power to carry that out. That's someone who's on their way to a really meaningful and purposeful existence. Most of us really know what is right for us, though we may be frightened or intimidated to know what we already know. As Jung put it, most of my patients knew the deeper truth, but did not live it. And why did they not live it? Because of that bias, which makes us all live from the ego, a bias which comes from over-evaluation of the conscious mind. So seldom are we in our right mind. Most of the time we are subsumed by and serving the invisible text of a message, which means we serve the received authority rather than our own deepest promptings. Am I listening to society? Am I evaluating my life on the basis of, do I have enough of this? Do I have enough of that? Have I achieved enough of this? Or am I listening to the inner voice, which may be leading me in a very different direction, from where I first started? And that's the recovery journey, to find that voice, to establish a real relationship with that voice. And that's the voice of love, and it's the voice of meaning, and it's the voice of unselfishness. It goes by many names, and it leads me in a course that if I learn to listen to it, I won't be disappointed. He goes on. So many self-help books prattle on about happiness, 30 days to this or that, 5 easy steps to fill in the blank. But this pablum, this baby food, does not feed the soul, fire the spirit, create the new world. The principal aim of psychotherapy is not to transport the patient to an impossible state of happiness, but to help him acquire steadfastness and patience in the face of suffering. Life demands for its completion and fulfillment a balance between joy and sorrow. Watch yourself. I just want the joy. Give me more of the joy. Well, it's a balance between joy and sorrow. And the sorrow has its work to do, and the joy has its work to do. And if I'm just only interested in the one and unwilling to bear with the other, I'm not gonna find my path through life. In the end, he says, we prove to be more than social animals. We are meaning-seeking, meaning-creating creatures. As Jung notes, the least of things with a meaning is always worth more in life than the greatest of things without it. I'm on my deathbed. Oh my God, I didn't go to enough meetings. Oh my God, I didn't make enough money. Oh my God, I learned to love. I learned to live. I learned to let go. Some monk said all of life is a preparation for a good death. We say yes, 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 and then even at the end, if not to cling. That's the whole Buddhist thing. Don't cling. Let go. And the program says what? Let go absolutely. That's the path to true joy. It's the path to God. Okay, that was number 6. Number 7. From whence cometh and whither to? Where are we coming from and where are we going to? All right. He says, we spend so much of daily life in meeting obligations, in serving schedules, assignments, and legitimate obligations. But the byproduct of this immersion is the loss of observational perspective. He says the larger view, the synoptic vision. Put simply, what is our life all about? Why are we even here? What are we to do while being here? So he calls this observational perspective, being able to step aside. One of the things I do in my morning quiet time is to look from this perspective on Bill and how he's doing. How did he do yesterday? I'm not good at the evening review, so I do mine in the morning. Please forgive me, but that's me. And I watch myself. How did I do yesterday in my relations with my wife, in my relations with my friends, in my relations with myself, in my relations with God? Did I do the guidance I was asked to do yesterday? Or did my ego once again assert itself and say, blow that off? God may have told you to do it, but who's running this ship, It's myself. It's my ego-centered self, rather than my God-connected self. There's a world of difference between those two. And it's not that the ego is ever going to be silenced. It has a role to play. You go to see a psychotherapist. If you don't have a strong enough ego, a good enough healthy enough sense of self, the first thing they're going to do is begin to build that up. Because you have to have a self if you're going to surrender it. If you don't have a self, you can't surrender it. You might think you are, but you're maybe not even healthy enough to do that. Been there, done that. Okay. So he goes on to say, I too realize how I have been guided all these years. We are all too close to see it in the hectic years. Just getting sober. It's not clear. Everything's in a fog. Early life, 20s, 30s. Got to get out there and make a living. Got to take care of the family. All really good things. But Jung would then talk about midlife, having a midlife crisis. The time when you say, is this all there is? Is this all there is? I was 20 years sober when that hit. And I was in AA. I was pretty solid in AA. But is this all there is? And that's when the universe opened up to me and taught me about the Oxford group, the two-way prayer. A whole different dimension began to open up. But I first had to hit somewhat of a bottom, a feeling of emptiness, all right? A feeling of, isn't there more? Isn't there more? We realized the presence then of an invisible source that was there all along. And this is the voice. This is the voice that's prompting me, all right, guiding me. If I have to make a decision between do I go rob a bank or do I not go rob a bank, not much use asking in your morning meditation about that. what Dr. Bob said, if I got one thing that's right and one thing that's wrong, you don't need God, you need a conscience. You do the next right thing. But if I've got two things that are right, do I go this way in my life? Do I go that way in my life? Both are right, all right? Not that one's wrong. Listen to the promptings. Listen for the guidance. Bring that question repeatedly to my two-way prayer, and over time, you're going to know this is what lights up my soul. This is where the energy and the fire is. This is the route I have to take if I'm going to follow my bliss, follow my star, follow the muse, who goes by many names, eh? Sometimes our world drops away, disintegrates, suddenly appears altered in unknowable ways. We can be cast adrift in a sea of transience and uncertainty. Change is the nature of nature, and we are a part of nature. Change is how life renews, but ego consciousness seldom welcomes change, because change undermines our fantasy of sovereignty, understanding, and control. The more we try to control, the more life slips out of our control. The ego likes certainty. The ego likes to be, what do we say, large and in charge. Larger than God. You know, and that's not consciously, well, I'm going to be larger than God today. We don't do that, but unconsciously, you look at your life and you see if that isn't exactly what we're doing. Who's driving the bus? Who is in charge of my life? Am I listening to the promptings? Am I writing down the guidance? Or am I just blustering my way through it, doing more of the same and getting the same damn results? In a world of unpredictable, uncontrollable change, only our relationship to our guiding instincts, only our internal compass that I've been talking about, only our dialogue with our dreams and revelatory systems of response, that's the two-way prayer. That's the active imagination, dialoguing with the deepest parts of me. Only these things provide continuity. That's the one thing that doesn't go away, all right? The deepest part of me doesn't go away. It was always there, always will be there. Any one of us who has a relationship to our inner life, our autonomous, supportive psyche, will ride the currents of social change, as well as those of personal change, and we will emerge safe on the other side. He's starting to wrap up. He says we are all going home. So we are. And while doing that, there are many journeys that take us away from home and ultimately lead us to a home rather different than the one we had imagined or planned for ourselves. If you've got a little sobriety under your belt, several years or such, look back on your life. Are you where you thought you were going to be? So many of us are so much better. So many of us things are so different than what we thought they were going to be like. Maybe in a different job, maybe in a different relationship, all right? Maybe in a different place inside. But if you've been doing your work, it's a better place. It's a richer place. It's more of a home than the home you were looking for. We all have to wonder who or what is steering the ship. Are we the captains or the passengers? From whence we departed is now shrouded in mystery, and whither we are bound, even more so. But it is a hell of a journey, and it is our journey. So let us try to stay awake and look for the new shore as we navigate the sea-racked shoals and the rocky coasts that lie before us. He could have ended it there, but he didn't, and nor will I. So he's got one more, not quite a chapter, he calls it an afterward, and he labels this homecoming. And there's some beautiful, beautiful language here. I don't have time to do the whole thing, but I think we can get the gist of it, and I benefited from it, and I think you will as well. So he says, if you have understood the thread running throughout this book, you know by now that it leads back through the 1,000 outer distractions and the myriad mazes within to you. It leads to you. Remember, as Holderman wrote in Homecoming, quote, that which thou seekest is near and already coming to meet thee. That which thou seekest is near. If I'm looking out there, I'm looking in the wrong place. If I were looking here, not only is it here, but it's coming out to meet me. If you give two-way prayer half a chance, you're going to be amazed before you're halfway through. Same thing with the steps, eh? If we just do that experiment, we're going to see the change happening in our own lives. And then we can't deny it because it is our experience. All healing is a form of homecoming, a return to our body's wisdom, the psyche's developmental intentions, to the place linking both our origins and our destinies. But what is home, and where is it? And, he asks, are we meant to stay there if we find it? Very, very good questions. Hollis concludes, I have discovered that there is no home to which we may return out there, no Valhalla to attain. There is only our journey. Today I understand what I could not as a child. The journey is our home. Our home is our journey. By this I mean there is no place to arrive where we know it all, where we are finally content. Inside each of us, there is a hunger, a burning desire to know, to explore. Sometimes I think we call it the God hole. It needs to be tended to, filled, all right? But it's never quite filled. There's always more. Why, after all, did the bear climb over the mountain, as the song has it? To see what he could see. As Jung pointed out once, this quickening of the spirit in each of us helps us overcome what he took as our greatest temptation: torpor, sloth, resting on the oars. You're either moving forward in the spiritual life or you're sliding backwards. You don't stand still. You don't plateau. We hit little plateaus. If it's not a getting ready to continue on in some new direction, in some new day, I'm going to start to slide back. You know? That's what he's saying. Resting on the oars, O-A-R-S, like you're rowing. Speaking of oars, he says, I have on my office printer a quote from the Odyssey. Now, the Odyssey, the Iliad and the Odyssey, these are the two great mythic poems of the Greek language, the Greek civilization. And the Odyssey was Odysseus, his journey through life. And people, kind of like we might look to Jesus or something, they looked to Odysseus as following the hero's journey. And so he leaves his city of Ithaca and off he goes into the Trojan Wars. And after 10 years there, it's 10 years of trying to get back home and just problem after terrifying incident, one after the other. He finally makes it back to Ithaca. That's the land that he comes from. This is from the Odyssey. This is the passage Hollis put above his printer. I will stay with it and endure. And if the heaving sea has shaken my raft to pieces, then I will swim. Why do you think he asks? I have that quote there. To remind me to swim, to keep moving forward into whatever curiosity, whatever mystery beckons. There are many who seek peace and contentment and a tranquility above the fray. I too am tempted by this possibility, but I have come to conclude that our journey is found in moving onward, setting forth anew before we grow complacent, self-satisfied, and spiritually inert. I think it's a line in the big book, don't we just want to loll around in the Florida sun, the businessman, And he does that, and pretty soon he's drunk. You grow, you give away, you change, or you revert back to what you were, and we can slide so easily in this deal. Even if we arrive home, he says, forces, whether inner, social, or epical, will agitate to pry us out of that place. If our home is our journey, then growth, flow, and development will become our familiar companions. Many of you will know and love the poem by C.P. Cavafy titled Ithaca, the home port of Odysseus. Imagining that Odysseus, weary with 10 years of slaughter and tumult on the plains of Troy and another 10 years at sea, would welcome a bit of rest at his home in Ithaca, might wish to pull up a lawn chair, open a six-pack, sorry for that one, and watch the ball game, or something like that. Instead, he whispers in this traveler's ear, Ithaca gave you the marvelous journey. Without her, you wouldn't have set out. She has nothing left to give you now. And if you find her poor, Ithaca won't have fooled you. Wise as you will have become, so full of experience, you'll have understood by then what these Ithacas mean. And so we learn our various Ithacas give us our journey. Our journey is our home. All arrivals are way stations on the path to the next journey. If not that, they are the tombstones of a dead soul. See, you cannot drink or not drug, but you can be dead, among the walking dead, doing the same damn thing over and over. You're not growing, all right? And this is meant to be a journey of growth, and I don't think you can do that unless you discover the inner workings of your soul and what is it that your soul is calling you to and towards. And so, in a conclusion perhaps disappointing to the reader, we find that we will always live in between times. That's the title of his book. How do we survive in between times, from one Ithaca to the next, all right? We always live in these in-between times, between what has been reached and exhausted and what approaches over the curve of the horizon. We best live through times of change, loss, challenge, when we live this journey as fully as we can, engaging both the sirens, those were the women on the shoreline who were going to trap the sailors, and then, wasn't good. Looked good, looked inviting, We're going to have many temptations along the way. But if we give in to those temptations, all right, and give ourselves completely to those temptations, we're going to pay a hell of a price. So the seductive nature distractions of the sirens and the sea serpents with their intimidations as they rise from the sea, temptations, and fear? Why should we think we are exempt from casting off from the familiar shore? Kierkegaard reminds us that merchant vessels hug the shoreline, but blue water mariners open their orders on the high seas. Are we afraid? Of course. Remember, I love this line. Remember, only psychotics and the deluded are not afraid. But since when is that an excuse for not showing up in life? Do you feel alone? Yes, we all have this journey to make, this passage compelled by the opaque gods to all of us during times in between. Only you can take your journey. Only your map is right for you. Others have to find their way. But you must know there are many others on the same voyage, with similar wreckage behind as well, facing similar fears and riddled with similar self-doubt. And still, the open sea, the realm of the imaginally limitless, beckons. All we can do is show up, grab an oar, do the best we can, and, while alone, sail this same sea together. After we take up that oar, no matter the outcome, we can say with that other voyager, Aeneas, I have lived. I have finished the course fortune assigned me. That's the journey, my friends, and I have finished this book, so I'm going to put it down. Thank you guys for staying with me as long as you did. I hope you will get a copy of the book. I probably read each chapter 4 or 5 times trying to get ready to do an episode. You would do well to do the same. It's rich, lots and lots of material. I hope I've introduced you to Jim Hollis. He's a wonderful teacher. Always have a dictionary in your hand when you're reading his books, because he's going to increase your vocabulary or frustrate the hell out of you, one or the other. I chose to have the dictionary, and I found it really, really helpful. So I hope this series was helpful. I'll be back to some more normal stuff next week. Thank you guys for listening. God bless, and keep coming back.